You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. I led into this. I think a lot of people don't know that before your media career, you were a college coach. You were a special teams coordinator at South Alabama. LSU special teams, Jake, have been so bad this year. Like, there's no way to tap dance around it. And it's not like it's just one thing, right? It's not like they have an inaccurate kicker that they can go just recruit a new one. It's like every phase, every week, it's something different that malfunctions. At the root, what is the core of that problem?
Well, typically it's one of a couple things. I always used to tell my guys, especially the young guys, because, still in a lot of high school, special teams is kind of, looked down upon. We're just trying to get through it. I always used to tell our guys, look, special teams is nothing but a football play, just from a different amount of space. Like, for example, kickoff return and kickoff is nothing but a run fit from a further distance in between. The kickoff team, you are just fitting the run. Most kickoff returns are set up just like power with the kick. Are two different double teams anytime you want to zone it. So at the end of the day, it's very fundamental. It is football. The positions are called something different, but it's still the game of football. It's blocking and tackling just from different angles and depths. That's one thing. So you can't ever lose sight that it's just football fundamentals, the same things that mess you up on offense, the same things that mess you up on defense, not keeping contained, not knowing leverage when you're attacking a kickoff returner or a punt returner. So that's one thing. Another thing is when you see rosters that may not be as full as they're going to be, or maybe a coach has to take over a roster that was depleted of depth, or maybe you're on probation, like, Lane Kiffin and USC used a punter, kicker, and kickoff guy as the same guy to be able to save scholarships. You really see it on special teams. That's where you really see lack of depth and lack of talented depth. I don't think that's LSU's problem. Okay. I think LSU has good enough players to be able to go out there and be effective, because you need to be a good player, but it's a lot easier to focus when you just play special teams and you're a third stringer on defense or offense. So I think it's lack of fundamentals. I mean, hell, look at field goal. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple formula to be able to get a good field goal off. I'm not saying it's easy. It's actually one of the most suckiest things in football to have to ride the lightning sometimes when you're protecting against field goals. So you can't turn it into this big thing that's outside of football. It comes down to fundamentals, blocking and tackling, angles, and understanding assignments, and the communication's not been good on that front.
So Jake, when LSU's 7 games into the season, right? And you mentioned the blocked PAT, but man, like, they had an illegal formation on a punt this week against Auburn. I know you watched that game. LSU had 4 special teams penalties in the first half. It was like every time there was a special teams play, there was an issue. They allowed the 47-yard return on the opening kickoff against Florida. They've kicked the ball out of bounds. They've muffed punts and kicks. It's everything. Like, how do you fix it?
Well, the easiest thing to fix is the ones you can control, right? The illegal formations, the illegal procedures, kicking the ball out of bounds, which is a controllable thing. You never want to kick it to the middle of the field and kick it out of bounds. But those are the easiest to eliminate because those are mental. You have total control over those. It's nothing that the other team is doing. So that's something you have to fix. Sometimes when you do have to play from that amount of space away from each other, you get more effort penalties, or what I call, physical penalties. Sure. You grab the face mask. You may have got your hand a little bit on the outside when it should have been more on the inside. You can live with those somewhat, but it's the controllable ones, pre-snap, and the controllable ones when the ball's in the air. You know when there's a block in the back. Nothing drives me crazier than 2 things. A block in the back, not only when the play's in front of you, but when you're behind the play. That's the thing that drives me the craziest. But then the second one is understanding where you're at on the field and where the return is. It's just like blocking on the offensive line. If I'm a returner and I set up one of my hold-up guys who thinks I'm going inside and I go outside and they react to the defender going outside and hold them, that's really on me because I didn't hit it where it was supposed to go. So you control the controllables. Some of the stuff you got to live with. But at the rate they're doing it, you would think it would come down at some point.
All right, so at its most basic level, 7 games in, they got 5 to play. Is it realistic to expect they'll get better at special teams at this point?
I would think so.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer in the longer it goes on. I mean, you have different counts on punt. It works in different ways for different guys. But it just surprises me how bad they are with who they have coaching them, to be honest with you. I think everybody at LSU is surprised because of that. But I would not be shocked if they continue to get better because, I mean, hell, it can't really get much worse.
I know. You say who they have coaching them. I mean, but like, I can't tell you that I know much about Brian Polian. I mean, I can look at his
Well,
resume.
I know he grew up in a family that is just immersed in football, so
Right.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's like if he was Guy Fieri's son opened up a taco truck. I'm going to trust you for a while.
Does Guy Fieri have a son?
I do not know that. That is a pop culture. I don't know, but if he does, he probably has the same hair as Justin Timberlake and Clay Aiken.
Well, anybody with hair, I'm jealous of. So good on him, even if it looks like Timberlake and Aiken. He's on Twitter at Jake Crain _. Give him a follow. The other thing too, and I want to talk about some of the other games this weekend, but I did want to ask you about Ole Miss's running game because I know you coach running backs as well. So when you look at Judkins, when you look at Evans, and what Ole Miss does. Like, why is it so effective? Kind of when everybody knows what they want to do is run the ball.
Well, you got two different type of runners. The way Judkins runs is very different than the way Evans runs. Evans is such a threat out of the backfield, catching the ball as well. It scares the hell out of you, especially when they go 20 personnel, which is two backs and no tight. But I think. If you're looking at stopping it, LSU up front, I know you've had guys that have gotten hurt. We all know the Mason Smith situation, but I feel like they're good enough to be able to make Jackson Dart have to beat you through the air. I think that's what you have to do, which is crazy to think of with a Lane Kiffin coach team. And I think it's a credit to Lane Kiffin that he's malleable enough as a head coach to realize, hey, we are a running team that runs to pass. We have a quarterback that can keep the ball on the RPO. That's a threat there, and he's playing to their strengths. A lot of coaches don't do that as easy and simple as it sounds. Their ego's too big and they're too stubborn. Lane has realized that. Judkins is more of your thunder. Evans is more of your lightning, even though Judkins is not slow by any stretch of the imagination, and he's going to end up being the best one, in my opinion, when you look at who makes it in the NFL. But that's a story for another day. But I do feel like LSU is good enough. If they take away the run early and make Jackson Dart have to beat you through the air, if you've watched Jackson Dart go through his progression, he knows what he's looking at, but for some reason he doesn't see linebackers in coverage very well. And I'm not just talking about the Mike when he's dropping in the window or the Will when he's dropping in the window. He doesn't see the nickel well. And that's really surprising for a team that runs as many RPOs as Ole Miss does, because a lot of those RPOs, you're reading that nickel to decide if you're going to keep the ball and pop that slant or maybe keep the ball and run if he turns his back because he's in man. So that's something to watch out for. Ole Miss, I think, is a good team. I do not think they are an elite team. If you make Jackson Dart have to dribble with his left a little bit, I think it could get really interesting.
Okay, so that's where I was going to go next, actually, is and you answered it directly, but I'll ask you to elaborate. I was going to ask if you're a believer in Ole Miss as a top 10 team. Look, they've beaten the teams they played. They're 7-0, but they've got the 109th ranked strength of schedule. So what really do we know? So if you're not a believer in them as the number 7 team or top 10 team, why not?
I just think Ole Miss has too many holes. And when you look at Ole Miss, while they have beaten every team they played, and I am by no stretch of the imagination saying they are a bad football team. They are a good football team. I do not think it really reflects how good they are with where they're ranked, though, but I don't disagree with putting them there. They've earned it. What I think is when you look at this team offensively and you look at this team defensively, there are ways to attack them and shut them down at what they do best. When you look at Ole Miss, and using the transitive property is dangerous in college football, but the way they played against Auburn and the way Auburn was able to have success running the ball when Ole Miss knew all Auburn could do was run the ball. So that's one thing. When you're not able to take away a strength on defense consistently, and we've seen Ole Miss struggle with some teams, then make a big play on special teams or make a play on defense to be able to pull ahead and go ahead and pull away of teams they're better than. I just feel like, Matt, when I look at LSU and Ole Miss, you're playing down there. It's at night. LSU played horrible in their last big home game against Tennessee from the kickoff on. Jaden Daniels last week actually took advantage of the ball down the field. That was like the last level he had to face or beat to be able to go fight the boss. It's the last tool he had to learn because now that's when his feet are really going to kill you. When I look at Ole Miss on offense and I look at LSU on offense, I feel like Jaden Daniels is the most dynamic playmaker when he's taken advantage of that third level, or at least that third level is a threat. Because if I'm worried about you attacking the ball downfield with Butte and Neighbors and the rest of the aliens that LSU has running around out there, it opens up that run game a little bit, not only for the running back, but for Jaden Daniels. That's why Brian Kelly came out in the media and said, yeah, he has no interceptions, but we're not getting a return on our investment because teams aren't afraid of us throwing the ball down the field.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.